Hi, everybody. Welcome to She Rises. I am Leslie Kuster. I am the best-selling author of Seven Keys to Seven Figures, the Women Entrepreneur's Guide to Money and Freedom. And we are live right now. We are live on Facebook. We're live on YouTube. We're live on LinkedIn, which is so much fun. I'm also the CEO and founder of Back from Bali, which is a women's clothing brand that I found and import into the US and sell primarily on Amazon and also on my business as well. And today we have another wonderful, wonderful guest, and I'm excited to introduce her to everybody. Her name is Jamie Smith, and she is the founder and CEO of Luxe, Luxe Every Day, which stands for Lead a Unique, Extraordinary Existence. She is what she calls an elevation strategist. I love that, for high achieving women, where she empowers entrepreneurs to shatter the glass ceilings of doubt and limitation. Don't we know about that? And breaking through to their next level and propelling them into the realm of the unstoppable. So with that, I will bring to the stage Jamie Smith. Welcome, Jamie. I'm so glad you're here on She Rises. And just tell us, you have a business here. You are a woman entrepreneur. What was the reason or the impetus that you had to start this? Is there anything that happened in your life or your life circumstances that made you go in this direction?
Oh, for sure. And how are you, Leslie? I'm so grateful to be here. And if you're joining us, I'm excited to meet you and say hello. But really, how Lux Every Day started was back in 2011 when my life was really a hot mess. Like, let's just be honest. Can we just get real really quick, really fast today, Leslie? Would that be okay?
That's always how I like to do
Let's
it.
let's do it. So my life was a hot mess back then. I was a stay-at-home mom, and I was just getting up in the fitness career, an international fitness presenter. But at that time, I was going through a divorce. I had 3 little kids, and life was crazy. So I call it my hot mess decade because it took about a decade to really figure out how to do life. But from that, I actually came up with a system that helps allow me to have a success formula. So no matter what is going on in life, I'm able to really rise above it. And it doesn't matter what's going on in the global economy. It doesn't matter what's going on in the government. It doesn't matter what's going on in the world, or
Yep.
even in just my personal external life. I've learned how to elevate above all of that and really remain the kind of the calm in the storm, right? To not be so reactive, but to be able to handle situations and understand that I can only control what I can control. And then the other piece of that, why I named it Lux, is because I learned in 2017. I'm a God girl. I don't know who all is listening is, but however you believe, just put yourself in that position. I really had like a impartation or a connection that was telling me like you're only at 2%. And I was like, what?
Mhm.
That's crazy. Like I couldn't even comprehend that because I was in my 40s, Leslie, at that time. And in reality, I'm a high achiever. Like I do all the things, right? And so to hear and to get this kind of prompting that I was only at 2%, it really opened up this window of opportunity to be like, is that possible? Like, and if it were possible, what would that even look like and why? And
Jamie, let me ask you about the 2% experience here. So what happened? And what does that mean exactly to you that you were told you're only at 2%?
well, yeah, I didn't know at the time. That's why I had to open up to it. So what I want to even encourage us to do is if you hear something that you don't understand right away, open up to the possibilities, right? Because when we do that in life in general, and when
Mhm.
we do that in our own lives, we can actually expand who we are and our capacity. And so at that time, I had to open up to, okay, what would it even mean? And I encourage you, if you're listening to this, open up to the possibility. What if you're only at 2%? What would that mean? What would that even look like? And what I found was as I was moving through it, I was like, oh, I'm only at 2%. Maybe I'm at 70 or 80% as a human. But because I
Mhm.
have this greater connection, this co-creation energy with the God of the universe, I have access to everything he has access to. I have the access to the resources, to the ability to create things, to everything. Like, right? That opens up so much more because truly we are not just a human vessel. We are a vessel that actually is imparted, like we can actually create bigger unimaginable things to our human brain when we open up access to more.
Okay, Jamie, are you saying that in 2017 you didn't really have that connection with the universe, with your spirit, whatever you want to call it? Was it something that wasn't really in your life, and then something happened that you got more connected?
So kind of and not really.
Okay, I can't wait to hear both of those.
So I had just had an end to a important relationship in my life, and so I was kind of really exploring, right? Exploring more of who I was now, because I think as we go through life, we lose our identity many times, or we need to reframe our identity to where we're actually going. But when we get lost in marriage and divorces and children, and right, we get lost in those things as women and
Yeah.
we lose our identity. And I had lost my truth of my identity, the truth of who I was. And so I was kind of going about discovering that. And I just happened to be worshiping, with God. And that was the message that I got. Now, I had always had a close relationship with God. What I didn't know and understand, and what I had to open to, is there's so much more. There's so much more, and that we are truly limitless beings when we don't just stay in our human side. Yes, we can. Yes, like, yes, I was praying. Yes, I was, like, giving the things to God that I couldn't control, all the normal things. But what I didn't understand is we can actually seize the power and the opportunity and the discernment and the authority and all of the things that God has, we can access as a direct conduit. And when we open up, instead of trying to control it, we allow it. There's so much power in that. And that's how Lux became live a unique, extraordinary existence every day, because we are limitless every day if we choose to be.
Mm, that's like so life changing. I mean, that's massive. So that must have just like flipped everything for you, and just like almost like the sun came out stronger, or the manifestation started to happen. So is there something like you did, like literally physically did every day, or thought about every day, or took action on every day?
Yeah, well, I think I started to build the routines, the rituals, right? The things in my life that could bring in and draw in and call in more of that, right? When you become aware of it, then you're like, okay. And what we don't want to do as humans, at least this is my perspective, we don't want to try to control it and force it and make it happen, right? But we want to begin to find ways to manifest and draw in and call in more of that, right? And when we open to, like, say, for example, in the morning, this morning, I was having time with God, and I was, praying and doing some declarations, and then also opening to, okay, God, what is it that you want today? Like, what is most important? Because we get so busy. I know you know this, Leslie. As women, we get so busy and caught up in the tasks and the to-do lists and the expectations of others and ourselves. And especially for high achieving women that we both, like, enjoy and work with, and like they're just trying to make their impact in the world. And so really just allowing that space and time, instead of making something happen, opening up to what are truly the most, like, the three biggest priorities that would move the needle faster that I can't necessarily see. And instead of going from our mind, going from our heart and our spirit and being led by that, right? The openness of that, the expansiveness of that, because our mind is it's such a critical thinker, and it will be
Mhm.
like, that's not possible, or that doesn't make sense. And when we move from having to always make sense, it actually shuts down our creativity. It shuts down more resources, right? It doesn't open up to what are the possibilities, what is expansive for us today that could actually move us forward quicker if we just get out of our own heads.
Absolutely. So true. You talk a lot about destiny, and
Mm.
and and really connecting with what one's destiny is. And I know that's something that you do. You help other women or clients that you have, like, know what their destiny is and connect more. So more of that's brought into their life. What does that mean to you, even? Like, what does destiny mean? And do you think we make our own destinies, or do you think there's sort of a path already made for us, and we're just sort of opening up to what is.
Gosh, that's so many questions in one. Let me see if I can
That's,
unpack a couple of those. I might have to
that's
re-ask
a good
because
one. I know.
it was such a good compilation of questions that wrapped around destiny. So, first of all, do I think we can make our own destiny? I think we take part in our destiny, right? I think we were called to something specific. And I think, like, for example, my calling is really freeing women so they can be the top level of who they were created to be, right? And so
Yeah.
I think we discover that as we go if we open up to it. And it really is it's that natural experience that crosses with your passion, that crosses with like the opening to what would be the biggest version of you that you can imagine and that you can share with the world. Like that's where the destiny meets human. But then we also, as humans, have to take that action, right? We can't just
Yeah.
sit and wait for it to happen. Then nothing's going to happen. So we actually
Nothing.
have to participate in it, right?
Yeah.
And I think you'll be interested in this because kind of how I became so passionate about leading women into their destiny is I know that you are passionate about women in their 40s and 50s and 60s. Is that correct?
That is correct. Because
Amen, sister.
that's when I had my 2017, perhaps, it was in my
Yeah.
early 50s, and I had a real aha moment that changed everything.
Ah, that's amazing. Well, and for me, a couple years ago, I turned 50 and I was like, I, you have this like, is my life like I feel like half over, right? Like, but I feel like I have so much more that I haven't lived. And it was funny because I was at a women's event because I
Mhm.
really believe fully in growth and being around other women in powerful communities and all the things. So I was at this event and I could feel a stirring. Like I bet you know what I'm talking about. I could feel a stirring of like something's coming. I feel a little resistance to it because I don't know. It feels very big and I have no idea what it is. It's like unknown, right? And I could feel that stirring. And so at the event, the leader of the event said, is there something that you're being called forth to? Like proclaim it now, like step forward. And so I was like, because I could feel that like so strong resistance at that point. And I didn't even know why it was so strong. I think it was just so unknown. And it was like this proclaiming and stepping in. And so I stood up in front of the whole room and I was like, I stepped forward. I'm like, I have been playing small and I am no longer going to be playing small. And
Mm.
you're 50, like to say that. And again, as high achieving women, we all can achieve and achieve and achieve, but we're still sliding under the radar. And I realized I was still sliding under the radar. And I wanted to figure out why. And I think once I opened up to stepping in, then it was like, oh, it's because as women, we are so afraid of fear of failure, judgment, being too much, being not enough, right? All the things, Leslie, all the things. And I was like, you know what? I'm no longer going to play small. I don't care what people say. I don't care what, happens. I
Yeah.
want, because I have a deeper need to step into the fullest version of me. And if I don't expand into every aspect and ounce of who that is, I am never going to be fulfilled fully. And at
Mm.
that point, when I started doing that, I started having a calling to call other women up. Right? Call other women up into their destiny identity, is what I call it. This is the newest level of you. This is the version that you were made and created to be. And because of that, I want to be that support for women because we need that, right? We need to be women for women, women building women, women doing the big things together and unifying.
I think everyone could relate to what you're just saying, sort of this, like you called it, a stirring that you had inside of yourself. And I've always felt that we have to kind of get very uncomfortable for that stirring to get loud enough for us to actually do something about it. And I also had that stirring. That was also my story, was just I was playing too small. Exactly the stuff you're saying. I knew I could be doing better. I knew I could be more successful. I knew I could be making a lot more money, but I was so trapped in my ideas of what I thought I was supposed to be doing, or what my job was, even within a relationship. Well, it's his job to make the money. All these ideas, but my change, came about because that stirring was getting really loud. I couldn't really sit in this body a lot longer without doing something about it. So what do you think about that? Do we need to get to this point?
I think people get to this point at different times in their life for sure. And I think life is moving so fast that I think a lot of the women, even newer, like 20s and 30s, are actually getting that stirring earlier than before because life is so moving so much faster these days. But I think everybody is called, but it's when you open up the space and are willing to look and seek
Yeah.
and to listen, right? Because we get so busy that we stop listening. We get so busy with tasks and everything that we're doing that if there's too much, you're never going to hear that calling. You're going to feel unhappy. You're going to feel unfulfilled, but you won't know why. You'll feel dissatisfied. And you just let life, you'll feel like life is taking over, but you're allowing it. You're allowing the chaos to continue. And until you choose to calm the chaos and create space, you may not even hear the calling because life is chaotic. It's like a storage room that is like a bunch of stuff is shoved in there and you won't be able to find anything, right? But the moment that we're able to hear that calling and follow the lead of that calling and open up to the possibilities, it's such a strong presence, right? And it's really that calling of fulfillment. And the reason why you feel unhappy, unfulfilled many times is because you're not answering that calling, right?
Yeah.
So we're not answering, but if you can't hear it because your life is so busy and you're so overworked and you're not allowing space, you may not hear the calling because there's not space for the calling.
So anybody listening who feels sort of stuck and they
Mhm.
feel, that stirring or frustration or disappointment or whatever they're feeling, well, first of all, like why can't women, because that's definitely who I like to give energy and wisdom and inspiration to, why can't women break through? Because not everybody does, even though they may want to.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, there's multiple reasons why people feel stuck, right? And it just depends. I have a course called Velocity, and the course is truly a course that helps you so that it extracts the things that are extracting energy from you and it brings more of the things that feed you and calm you and energize you, right? Because when we choose to optimize our energy, when we choose to create the space to listen, when we choose to do all of these things, it actually creates a bigger capacity. So if we are not, first of all, choosing those things wisely, like we've gotten out of alignment with the things that do fill us up and we've allowed the things that no longer serve us to still be a part of our life, that makes us feel stuck. We feel like we have to stay here, right? And the truth is we have these limiting beliefs, and unless you've conquered those limiting beliefs and opened up to the possibility that, you know what, I do actually have control over some things. People feel stuck because they feel like they have a loss of control, but the reality is they have limiting beliefs and limiting stories from their past, and they're telling themselves they're stuck, but the reality is we always have choices. It may not be the choices that we desire. It may not be the outcomes we desire right away, but we can always make small choices that go towards our calling, that move towards getting unstuck, right? And so the whole reason why I created Velocity is to start to get those things out of your life that no longer serve you, that suck your energy, that take your mindset, and clear the way for the things that do serve you now, but more importantly, to where you want to go, right? The woman that you want to be, the life you desire to have. We need to add more of those things in. And if you have too many of the old things that are taking away, like self-sabotaging behaviors, right?
Mhm.
We allow that to self-sabotage our success, and we allow that to steal our energy and allow people that aren't even a positive force in our life to have space in our life. All of those things create a stuckness. Like there's so many ways, but I would say the fastest way is to really clear out the old things that no longer serve you and bring in more of the new.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the hardest things of all to do because a lot of times we don't even know we're in it, which is really, I think, the first step is um, so many of us at times, feel like a victim to it, right? Or they're I love your point that we feel we're not in control, because I think that is a problem. I think a lot of people who feel stuck feel they don't have any control over it, that, he's doing that, or the situation is this, or I didn't get trained for that, or there's too much competition, or all of these kind of things. And those things actually it's true. He did do that, and there is competition, and the situation out there is like that. Those are actually true, but we don't have to be victims to them. We could believe something different, especially since a lot of these things that we're scared about hasn't even happened yet. Like, it's just as true that you will have competition as you won't, because it hasn't happened. So we don't actually even know. So much of it, we have to even start with, I think for me, it's honesty about where we're at and what our thoughts are and what we're believing.
Oh, I agree 100%. I would say that honesty, like getting very real with yourself, but
Yeah.
also coming from a place of not coming from a place of punishment, because that's not going to do you any good. Like being hard on yourself, that's not going to do you any good. Coming from a place of just like it's feedback, right? We're taking in feedback about how we're operating in this world, who we're being, who we're showing up as. But the moment we judge that, that takes our power away again, because the moment we judge it, we're punishing ourselves. We end up in self-sabotaging behavior because now we feel bad. Now we're right. It's just a self-propelling almost prophecy. But when we choose to be honest and just be gentle with ourselves and become aware, like one of the biggest places we can start is awareness, that
Mm.
awareness with the truth, and just allowing the feedback as if you were to see it from somebody else's perspective, because that's where the healing can begin. That's where the openings of honesty will open for you to start to change. And then you become more empowered. But we have to, as women, be so much more gentle and have grace for ourselves. The more grace we have for ourselves, the more grace we can give other people. If we don't have grace for ourselves, it's going to be really hard to give to anybody else as well, because we're beating ourselves up in the midst of it as well.
That's so true. We can't, exactly. Agree with you. We can't like bulldoze ourselves towards our destiny. We can't, that's not the energy that needs to be used to get there. And I love the word gentleness, because everybody could relate to that. So, I'm a big believer in having that we need empty time or non-doing time, or being gentle on ourselves time. And I believe that the fact that I've had that in my life as I've built my business is one of the reasons for the success of my business. Can you share some tips, activities, something that you do to get yourself kind of in that state, so that that destiny can come in?
Mm. I love to reflect. I'm one of those rare people that I'm actually an outgoing introvert. Like I can
Mhm.
do all of these things. I love and enjoy these things, but really down deep, I'm an introvert. So for me, I even actually wrote a whole article. So if you're listening to this and you're an introvert and you want success tips, like it's an authority magazine, but it will help, because as an introvert, we need to learn to function in this world as well in our most powerful beings. But as an introvert, I need a lot of space. And
Mm.
this is also why I created the Velocity course, is because when you want to show up big in the world, you have to have the fullest expression of yourself. And if you don't feed yourself, however, you need to be fed and built up, you're not going to be able to show up in that like expansive, extraordinary way that will serve you and others so much better. But for me as an introvert, I have to go away from the stimulation and recharge. I have to go away. And so I also take time, and I have to make time. Like Leslie, like we're busy women. Like I have to make a point of making time, because I hear you ladies. You're all like, I don't have time to do all the journaling stuff. I don't have time to create space in my life. What I will tell you is the moment you do, you get clarity. The moment you do, you will be able to change life, because the reality is if we're not aware of actually what's happening and we don't process that, it keeps us stuck. It keeps us back in our old behaviors. It keeps us, kind of limiting ourselves. But when we allow ourselves to reflect on what's really going on in life,
Yeah.
what lesson did I learn? Even though this was hard, what lesson did I learn that I can apply, right? When we don't take the moments to actually integrate the learnings, integrate the higher level thoughts that we're having, they go away. They like disappear. And
Well,
you wind up having to learn those lessons again. You wind up not realizing why you're not growing, why you're not changing, why your life isn't what you desire. It's not what you desire because you haven't created the space to create it.
Can you just give one simple thing a woman could do to create that space for themselves, something that's actionable?
Yeah, absolutely. There's something called it's the artist's way. Have you heard of it?
I have.
Yeah. And so essentially, she says to write 3 pages as soon as you wake up in the morning, right? So take 10 to 15 minutes, schedule that before you look at your phone, before you do anything else. And this will help in multiple ways. And you write 3 full pages. Like you don't stop because what she says, and I can't remember the author's name, you might be able to have help
Uh,
me with that one. Yeah, but it's called The Artist Way. But she talks about writing 3 full pages, and you'll get stuck at like page 1.5, right? Or page 2, but you have to write 3 pages because that's where the breakthroughs happen. And just take time in the morning before you do anything else because your consciousness stream is the best at that, right? At that moment, and just flow. And you can write anything you want, anything. It cannot make any sense. It can be like, I want to encourage you and invite you into, if you're listening, literally write all the mean things you're saying to yourself, any mean thoughts you have, the destructive behaviors you have done, anything that is creating chaos in your mind, get it out on paper. Now you could burn this paper every day if you want, but
wow.
just get it out because that part of that chaos in your mind just needs to be released. Part of that inner critic in your mind is because you're not releasing those negative thoughts. You're thinking, oh, if somebody found out that I thought that, what would happen, right? And here's the clue. We all think those things. We're just not talking about them. So
Right.
release them on paper. Get it out, right? Stop being so confined by what people might think and just literally blurb them out on paper and then do that every single morning. And what will happen is you start to get the chaos, the negative inner critic. You'll start to out of your mind, but you'll also start to see the patterns. You'll start to have openings in your mind because now there's space in your mind to actually contemplate. You'll realize some of the things you're saying to yourself. You'll realize the patterns that you have and do it over and over and over. Try it for 30 days. And I promise you, if you commit, this would make a life-changing like opportunity for you.
Thank you for that. Thanks for giving something really practical that women can do.
Yeah.
So we're going to wrap up right now. Can you just share like how people could find you? I'm going to actually put up your website there. There's your website on screen. How could people find you? Do you have anything coming up that you want to let people know
Yeah.
about?
Thanks for asking. Yeah, I would love to connect with you ladies. You can connect with me on Instagram if you want to DM me anything. That's Lux Everyday Life is my handle. But I also have a hot success to hot or hot mess to hot success. We don't want to go the other way. Hot mess to hot success masterclass coming up. So you can go to luxeveryday.com hot success. And we'll be talking about all the strategies because here's the reality is we all have hot messes somewhere in our life. And when we begin to learn to get those out, we can elevate so much faster, like some of the strategies we talked about today, Leslie. So if you want to join me for that masterclass, that's going to be really powerful. It's a free masterclass. So you can take part in that. But yeah, I would love to connect with any of you ladies if you have any questions for me at all and join the masterclass. It's going to be really fun.
That's great. Thank you so much, Jamie. You offer a lot of wisdom of what's really important, because what it is we have to go deeper. The success doesn't really happen just by the goals in our to-do list. The success actually happens from the inside out. I mean, I know it because I did it. I
100%.
live that life, and I know how much this really works. So I hope this has been inspiring to everybody who's been watching or who's listening to this. And again, thank you so much. Everyone, check out Jamie's website, check her out on Instagram as well. And Jamie, thank you once again.
Thank you, Leslie. It's been a pleasure.
And thank you everybody for being on She Rises. And I have a free gift for you, and I'm just going to put it up right now. If you go over to my website, which is lesliekuster.com, I have a resource list. Basically, I opened up my Rolodex and I put down all of my contacts, like, and things, the best books and the best podcasts and investments that you want to find out about. Coaches are on there. So check it out. Go and get the resource list at lesliekuster.com. Thank you so much for listening, and I will see you next on the next She Rises. Until next